Okay, so it would appear that all of you had looked at the Science Channel, or maybe not everybody, but have probably perhaps made an attempt to get this material caught up, because we're going to be talking about this structure right here, and it's plants. I get it. It's not all that interesting, unless I'm going to, no offense, but I'm going to pick on a few people to where this is probably going to be a lot more relevant. If I don't point at you, don't take offense. It's just predictions that I'm trying to make. It might be relevant to yourself. I don't know, yourself, maybe. Maybe. Yourself. Like I said, if I didn't point at you, don't take offense to that. Because how many of you enjoy chemistry that I did point at? So if I didn't point at you, how many of you do enjoy the chemistry that we did last year? Okay? So the reason I bring that up is for some of you, some of this probably looks familiar, right? Yes. Okay? But we take things in a slow progression. In physical science, do you remember the organic portion of that? You had to know two derivatives. One was an ethyl group. The other one was a methyl group. Okay? In general chemistry, we add two more to that, a propyl group and an isopropyl group. Then your senior year, should you choose to take that, we add four more to that, the butyl groups. So you're up to 8 by the time you're a senior. So we take it in a nice slow progression. Some of this might look familiar. So we dealt with this, but we also do what's called quantum numbers that's associated with all these electrons. Good stuff, right? Yeah. Where else would you rather be 6th hour? House. The dog. Okay. Does he bite? Does he bite? So okay. They're mean. Okay. Well, good. Okay. So the relevance of this, you might be wondering, well, what would it or could it possibly be? Well, these molecules that these plants form are different types of sugars, and we talk about that in biochemistry for those of you who move on and take that as a senior. That's why I was pointing at some of you, okay? And if I missed the mark, I didn't mean to leave anybody out. It's just what I've noticed in the past. And like some of you, you can probably handle it, but I just don't picture you going into a science-related field. How accurate was that? I know you can handle it, but it's no interest to you. We go back to the Ben example. I'm good at math, but I don't like it. Okay? Does that make sense? You can be good at science, but you just don't like it. So that's probably here. And maybe back there, I don't know. We're good at science, but we just don't like it. Does that sound accurate? Sure, we'll go with that. Okay. So moving forward with this, what do we know about chloroplasts? What is the chloroplast? It is. And what is inside of that chloroplast? It's a pigment known as what? Not chloroplast, but rather chlorophyll. Okay? Because I'm thinking, I don't know if we get to the two types here. It was at the bottom there. Okay? Down here. Okay? But when it comes to photosynthesis, okay, we're going to talk about the light reactions here a little bit today. Okay? This should be where we start, right?
Yeah, but where's Krebs?
That might be on your previous sheet yet. There is nothing there? Okay. All right. I must have missed that when I transferred over. But you do have this. Is this on that paper that's handed to you? Okay. So we got to close that gap a little bit. So let's go ahead and just get down to here then.
You need to go back one more.
Okay?
Yep.
Because
It's, look at stroma and then put the parentheses under.
Okay. So there's just no face.
all right, so
Does it talk about this?
yeah, it doesn't. That's part of the next section. I don't know how that got on there. Krebs cycle. I don't. So disregard that for now. Okay, but where you see this, go ahead and fill that in. All right. Is it? Yes, I know it's hot in here. I'm trying to do all the legwork for yourself, so all you have to do is sit there and think. That's enough, right? Okay. Fair enough. And then once you get that material copied down, just whatever it is that you can fill on here, go ahead and open up to 223. Okay, does everyone have this information that wants it or that is going to actually write it down? Yes? Okay. Okay, now, on page 223, I want you to look up at figure 6. Okay, upper right-hand corner. Okay. Because that is showing two different types of chlorophyll. So what do we know? No offense, but I'm guessing not a lot. What do you know about visible light? Anything? Do you remember anything from earth science about shifts of stars? If it's a blue shift or a red shift? Yeah, a little bit, but if it is a red shift on the spectrum, that means a star is moving away from you. If it's a blue shift in the wavelength, it's actually coming towards you. Okay? So you can kind of see that in this spectrum of light, that on the far left is blue and on the far right is red. Okay? So it's not always going to be a green color of chlorophyll in these leaves. Some of them will actually develop different types of colors for different reasons. And if we look outside now, oh, well, we can't. Not by the propane tanks. But what are some of these deciduous trees starting to do now? For some people, oh man, I wished I could go to New England in the autumn season. Why would that be? Okay. They're just starting to turn different types of hues throughout the cycle of the life of those leaves. They just start to lose the ability to continue that green type of chlorophyll. So they start to change phases in their color. Now, oddly enough, different types of chlorophylls also deals with animals on how they evolved as well. Okay? Because what is binocular vision? Well, yes, you're going to see better with binocular vision, but it's usually associated for active predators. And when you think of an active predator, who might that be? Yes, coyotes, lions, anything that's a carnivore. Okay? So when you picture these animals that you are saying are active in their carnivores, how are their eyes fixed in their sockets? Are they, do they point to the sides or do they point straight ahead?
On the sides. They can see everything.
Lions and wolves? Okay. Does anyone know what an advantage of binocular vision is? Yes, you can see better, but that doesn't. But so can antelope, so can cattle, so can buffalo. They can see better as well. Why is that important? When you say you can see farther, that's true, but there's something a little more specific. And it's more so what we call depth perception. In other words, I know that that bull is 4 feet away. Maybe 4.5, 5 feet. If an animal has binocular vision, that's fine. If an animal has binocular vision, that means they have 2 fields of view that overlap. And that allows them to have what we call binocular vision. Well, you might be asking, well, what does it have to do with chlorophyll? Well, you haven't got to that part yet. Okay? When you look at, can anyone name some of the primates? Who's a primate? Monkeys. So what else besides a monkey? Chimpanzees, apes, the guys in here. We told a funny. Yes. Yes. Okay? So anyway, if apes and monkeys are what we don't consider active predators for eating meat or flesh, why do they have binocular vision? There's 2 reasons that actually plants evolved first, then the animals came after that. But that still doesn't answer the question, why is there 2 different types of chlorophyll? It is. But then it also goes back, why do primates have an overlapping field of view? Because it's what you had said earlier, you can see what? It's probably a pretty good advantage to be able to see how far that limb is before you jump. Okay? Because if you have to jump 30 feet, but your brain is telling, 27, you'll be fine. It's close enough. If you make it 27, you'll be fine. Well, what about if you're 300 feet up in the air? Gravity does work. Yeah, down they go. But also, chimps and different types of monkeys developed a type of binocular vision that they can see colors. Okay? So if there's different wavelengths of color that they can see in these leaves, they can also say, all right, this type of leaf is going to be more nutritious than this type of a leaf. Because most leaves we see are going to be green in color. But that's not all of them. They could have a different type of red hue in them. And being able to see color is going to be an evolutionary advantage, and that's why that type of vision is so common in that of the primates, that you can see how far something is ahead of you, but also the color of the leaf that's going to be more nutritious. If you can take in a leaf that is more nutritious, are you going to be more healthy? Yes. You are going to be more healthy. That is correct. So all these different types of hues and leaves is not only just important for plants, but it's also through the course of evolution in animals. Okay? So the light reactions on page 223. Chloroplasts. Okay? Just follow along. Large organelles called chloroplasts capture light energy. I can't say that. That's not photosynthesis, though. Photosynthetic.
Organism.
Whiff. Strike 3 here. Okay. In photosynthetic. Photosynthetic. Thank you. Photosynthetic organisms in plants, chloroplasts, are found mainly in the cells of leaves, as we just talked about. Okay? As shown in figure 5, okay, that's on the other page, but it'll talk about figure 6 here in just a moment. Chloroplasts are disc-shaped organelles that contain 2 main components essential to photosynthesis. The first compartment is called the thylakoid. Thylakoids are flattened sac-like membranes that are arranged in stacks. These stacks are called grana. I think I misspelled that on your vocab terms. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Okay. Light-independent reactions take place within the thylakoids. The second important component is called stroma is what I misspelled. I put stoma. It's supposed to be stroma on your vocab terms. The fluid-filled space that is outside the grana. This is this location of the light-independent reactions in phases 2 of photosynthesis. Okay? Pigments. Light-absorbing colored molecules called pigments are found in the thylakoid membranes of chloroplasts. Different pigments absorb specific wavelengths of light as illustrated. Then it kind of stopped. Oh, in figure 6 that we just looked at. Now, when we look at a color, okay, who can we pick on in here? Okay, so when we look back at that shirt absorbs every wavelength of light except, what would you call that? Orange? Okay, so that shirt absorbs every wavelength of the spectrum except orange. That gets reflected. So what happens is when you see that reflection, that's how you determine that type of color, whatever it is. It's the reflection that's absorbed in a wavelength. Okay, figure 6. The major light-absorbing pigments in plants are chlorophylls. There are several types of chlorophylls, but the most common two are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. The structure of chlorophyll can differ from one molecule to another, enabling distinct chlorophyll molecules to absorb light at unique areas of the visible spectrum. In general, chlorophylls absorb most strongly in the violet-blue region of the visible light spectrum and reflect light in the green region. So it's absorbing blue colors, but what is it reflecting? So when you look at a plant, what color are you seeing? Green. That's why we picture plants being green. Okay. Of the spectrum. This is why plants that contain chlorophyll appear green to the human eye. Okay? Now, in short, because I'm getting hot standing up here, and I know we got a lot of people in here, but I just want to put a drawing up here because I think if you read it, it doesn't sink in. But if you can read it and it's being explained at the same time, I think it would make more sense. Okay. And we'll get further in depth with this perhaps tomorrow, but I know some of you are gone tomorrow because of football. Who's leaving early? Okay, so stat keepers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just you 5? And we got band people in here, right? So 6, 7, 8. Yeah, well, football, band, whichever. Okay, so about 6 of you are gone. Okay, that's fine. So in short, I just want to give you a little bit of a diagram of what you see on page 225. If you looked at that and said, what is that illustrating? You would probably say, "Buh," and I would have a hard time arguing with that. Okay, so in short, what you learned in elementary, what do we know about plants? They take in what and give off what? Okay, so this is the cell membrane. It's not going to be as elaborate as what you see in your book. But inside of here, okay, we have structures that are going to absorb UV light. Okay, for organic chemists that we study in here, reactions are going to occur one of two reasons. Either 1, there's a catalyst, or 2, there's some form of heat given off. Heat is a common catalyst that can cause a chemical reaction to take place. And this is an example of that heat. So what you see in green, okay, you see that squiggly line that is pointing to that? You see a squiggly line that looks like this? Okay. So that is visible light from the sun that's causing that to happen. A specific molecule, the most common in all animals, in all plants. What molecule might that be? It's actually the most common molecule on Earth. You got half of it. You said hydrogen. That's only half. When I tell you, you're going to say, I knew that. Hydrogen's only half of it. Some of you might have said it. I didn't hear you. Hydrogen is only half of it because you're just seeing the hydrogen ion. That's it. Well, what is that? Water. Water, the most common molecule on Earth. How do we know that? Well, the Earth is mainly composed of water, correct? 75%. Okay? And us as humans, we're mainly water. Okay? So anyway, what you see happening, the sun is shining down on these leaves here. You have many, many molecules of water. They get cleaved. They get broke. What's a meat cleaver? It is, but more specifically, what do you suppose a meat, besides saying that, why would you use a meat cleaver? Well, I know, we just said that. But what might you use a meat cleaver? You need to be a little more specific than cutting beef. You're going to use it to cleave bones, to break them in half. So you take that meat cleaver and you chop it. Chop it. Probably woke some of you up. Yeah. So then you take that meat cleaver, you break it apart. Okay? So now you see water. Okay? Why would we write it like that? What's the formula for water? Yeah. So, but you don't see two hydrogens inside of this, do you? No. And if you remember, who came in here for their Olympics last week? Okay? How did you solve that problem? Was it the diatomic molecules or the time of day that was the clue? Probably the time of day. But what's true about nitrogen and oxygen? They're diatomic. What does it mean to be diatomic? Yeah. Hydrogens bond to one another, oxygens bond to one another. But what happens, this water molecule gets split. So you see lots of these floating around inside of there. Okay? So there's oxygen molecules looking for one another. So what do you suppose them oxygen molecules are eventually going to do? No. Well, bond with what though? No. It's not going to go back to what it just started from. So if you have some of these oxygen molecules floating around, Johnny already answered that. You already answered that. A lot of you already answered that. What are these oxygen molecules going to start doing? I gave it away. Molecules. So these are probably going to bond to one another. You have all this oxygen floating around. Okay. Then I need another one here. These two, since they're close to one another. Okay. Then these two are close to one another. These are going to diffuse back outside of the membrane and out into the atmosphere. That's why we say plants take in carbon dioxide in a different set of reactions and give off oxygen as a byproduct. This is what's happening, okay? In a different set of reactions where hydrogen is diffused across the membrane, we'll talk about tomorrow, because as we said, it's uncomfortable in here, right? The main thing that we want you to know, okay? The main thing is water molecules get split. Once they get split, these hydrogen ions start to build up, and then what that does is it causes what we call an electron transport something, ETC. It's one of your vocab terms too, I bet. the electron transport blank. It's probably somewhere in your book there on one of them pages. I think you went the wrong way. Maybe it doesn't. John carriers. It's what we call the electron transport chain. That's what I wanted you to look for. Okay, so yes, it's hot in here, so that's enough for today. Some of you are gone tomorrow. Yes, I get it. Look at the Science Channel very briefly, and we'll hit this hard again next week. We'll catch up to you next time.